Welcome, everybody. My name is Chad Corbett, founder of Probate Mastery, Magnum Opus Project, and the Estate Professionals Mastermind community. Today, I have another Ask the Expert guest. I'm super excited that we cross paths. I can't wait to have this conversation. We haven't spoken much previous to this. I want to introduce you guys to a probate and estate planning attorney out of Arizona, as well as an educator in the space. What's really exciting to me is we seem to have the shared vision of actually bridging the gap between the real estate community and the estate planning legal community, and really showing those people who we can reach that the rising tide lifts all boats. And by working together, not seeing each other as competition, but as complementing skill sets, we can all serve at a higher level. And ultimately, we're in business to make money so we can all be more profitable. So Rilus Dana, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. I found your channel. Not sure how I found it. Maybe the YouTube algorithm served it up eventually, but it's really refreshing. There's a lot of content out there, but as a probate attorney, sometimes I'm a little biased or a little bit different, but I have to say that you're spot on so far. Everything that I've seen, I really like your approach, how you cater to the attorneys. As a probate attorney, I would say that your approach is perfect for probate attorneys. I like what you're saying.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. I've worked hard to differentiate myself by approaching most of this in a very different way. So what I learned that allowed me to make this a fun and lucrative niche to do real estate in versus the drama and chaos of conventional real estate. I learned if you provide value first, whether it's to the attorney, to the estate sale company, to the heirs, to the personal representative, if you lead with value and really be empathetic to their situation, this business just comes to you like a magnet. My big vision is to actually blur that line between the legal community and the real estate community by showing them how reciprocal value can actually bridge the gap. And ultimately, the customer, the consumer will benefit the most. The families who are being helped will get the most benefit. But the law firm is going to be more profitable, as is the real estate firm. So I'm excited to meet somebody else who's a practitioner and a teacher in the space and actually highlight you to the community. You've posted a few videos in there, and I appreciate that. If you guys want to engage, if you're not a member already of Estate Professionals Mastermind, the private Facebook community, that's what brought us together. And then hopefully the space where we'll grow this into something that's really beneficial to both industries. If you don't mind, please share with us like what brought you into the legal field. Did you start out as an estate planning and probate attorney, or did you go there on purpose? Tell us a little bit about what brought you here today.
I'm here on purpose, and what brought me here is the mortality rate being 100%, right? So my dad was an estate planning attorney. I got a look at the business during college. I started working in his law firm and got a little taste of it. And I really enjoyed helping people. And then the fact that everyone dies and a lot of money is in that older generation is going to be shifting. So that's when I decided that I would indeed get into this business. Fast forward, I describe like kind of the old school law firms, fear-based. They didn't have to be good. The old attorneys, there's a lot of them that they didn't have to be good. They could suck and still make a good living. It really before the internet kind of shifted and made information easily accessible. I studied business management in college. I knew that I wanted to go to law school, but I studied business management because I always knew that I wanted to run a business. And I saw the struggles that my dad had running a law firm, hiring people and all of that. So after law school, I ended up purchasing some of the pieces of the firm from my dad, and then I went out on my own. So there's been a lot of experiments basically with trying to run an effective estate planning and probate law firm.
Now,
And
have you found it difficult to find mentors in that space? Like someone who has, blazed a trail that you respect, that you're like, ooh, I want to be like that person. Or are you becoming that person because they don't exist? You weren't able to find them.
yeah, I would say both of those. Again, the legal profession is old school. There's a lot of people like this works, so this is the way that we should do it. And
Mhm.
they're not concerned about changing and adapting. So yeah, I was members of different like attorney groups, but I found them just like a little bit outdated. I found it that I was sharing more than I was giving. It sounds bad, but it was great for my confidence as a young attorney. It was the best because this
Yeah.
was, I was only a few years into my career. It's like, wait a minute, these guys that are like twice my age don't have a clue. Like I already have more experience than these guys because I saw the questions they were asking. It surprised me. So I was
Yeah.
like, really? Like, you've never done that? Like, why don't you just do this? or why don't you do that? Or so yeah, there's not really a good, at least that I enjoy. And it's funny. So yeah, I am trying to create that network for attorneys, just by doing more videos. And what's funny is I invite different attorneys. I have a list of attorneys in Arizona or just different probate attorneys. And I get responses just like from other attorneys that I've had cases against that just tell me to remove their name from the list. It's like, bro, I'm just trying to go to lunch with you. Like, like I'm just inviting you to something, but it's attorneys are a weird bunch. It's just hard to get them together. It's hard to communicate with them, and so it's
I would
fun.
say pro tip, if you really want to learn to communicate with any attorney, really go into traditional psychology and study the ego, the id, and the super. And if you understand how that triad works and how it affects behavior, like what that self-talk inside of somebody's what's going on inside their head, it's a lot easier to appeal to them. Like sometimes when you get those very ego-driven attorneys, it's 9 out of 10 people will strike out or get the door slammed in their face. And a lot of times it's about that provide value first comes in many different flavors, right? The value may be like appealing to their ego, give them a chance to talk about themselves and their firm, and then they're your best friend in the world. Some are impossible. I've met attorneys that I just couldn't tolerate, but most you can find a way in there. So yeah, it's a diverse group of ego plays a pretty big role in the law field, I've found.
Yeah, one of my old assistants described attorneys as simultaneously lazy and control freaks. Yeah, so it's like that can be the challenge. Like there's just attorneys can be nervous too, because like we always got to think about what the bad things that can happen and all of that. So that's how we're wired.
Yeah, you guys have just drawing a comparison to the real estate. We have some liability to be concerned about. You guys have way more oversight and regulation and liability that comes with that. One example that comes to mind is you're not allowed to direct market, directly solicit the way that we can. And that's where one of those provide value first entry points to really build a meaningful relationship with an attorney is why don't you let them be part of, as a real estate professional, they're allowed to be part of your community. They're allowed to have their name in your letter. They're not sending a direct solicitation. They might get an endorsement from you in a letter, and that doesn't violate the law. And they can grow their firm and build their brand through a collaboration with a real estate professional. And it's frustrating to me. It's not very common because the approach that we teach in probate mastery for how a real estate practitioner should approach a law practitioner is make sure you come in with something of value. Don't come in with your hand out asking for something cold on a cold introduction. But when you do that, like really focusing on the same empathetic approach that you would use with a personal representative when you're prospecting to the family, use that for the attorney. Keep in mind, they are a small business owner. They have the same struggles that we do, even more. And in this instance, like think about it. You're allowed to do it almost whatever you want marketing for real estate. Imagine if you weren't allowed to direct market, no direct mail campaigns, no cold calling, direct cold calling list. So there's things that we can do that are pretty simple for us and very inexpensive, but make a very big impact for the legal partner on your team. And when you do that, you're earning the trust by helping that small business owner scale through their problems and grow their business and meet their goals. And our goal is for attorneys and real estate agents, let's figure out a way that you can work less and do good. So with that, I want to segue like into your perception, and I'm putting Rilus on the spot, guys. I didn't tell him I was going to ask this, but really curious to hear your honest perception of the real estate industry as a whole, and maybe even some stories. Like, how often do you get approached by real estate agents or brokers? And how often do they have anything valuable to offer versus they just come in asking or expecting?
Yeah. So the real estate as a whole, I'll probably get in trouble for I already got, I got an answer for the bar from a realtor that complained about something else, but I
You
feel
won't
like,
get complaints here. So core value number 10, candor is a virtue.
yeah, if you don't like what I say, like, sit in the comments, don't just call the bar and tell on me. But I feel like the realtors have a stranglehold on it, and it's not gonna last forever with technology and other things. Because as an attorney, I've seen this happen with LegalZoom and those things where they fought against it. But I feel like there's a real powerful lobby trying to keep part of that in existence with the realtors. We talked earlier. There's some realtors can be great. They can provide value and be a great part of the team. But just like lawyers, right? Lawyers, they're not all great. So there's different levels of them. But a good real estate professional can really help solve problems. A good real estate professional is just someone that solves problems. Their tools are just a little bit different than my legal tools of doing probate.
When you have the right team, I have about 24 core team members. So you can offer a vertically integrated solution. Now, obviously, the attorney is one of those, and we use a metaphor of a wheel. The CPE is the center of the wheel, and then each of those other members is a spoke, but collectively they make up one valuable piece. So part of that is getting the right team together. And if you meet a real estate professional who actually has that vertically integrated team that you're a member of, they can liquidate assets. They can provide a level of customer service that's at or above yours. They act with integrity. They consider themselves a fiduciary, even if they're not. But they can bring in the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and get all the needs met of the family. So they arrange for an estate sale. They liquidate the personal property. They take the cash from the personal property, raise the equity level in the real property by doing a renovation, create a bridge loan by letting the contractor carry an invoice, then they close it up. The right real estate professional, I feel like, is a godsend to the law firm because they can add value at every single step of the process. It pulls redundancy off of your office staff. There's not constant emails and phone calls and like trying to figure out, because that realtor has proactively educated them on what to expect, set a proper expectation, and delivered as they said they would, and each of the other team members too. I've had thousands of people go through the class, and I hope that's making a difference already. I mean, we see it in our communities, but I hope the people that aren't on weekly calls are out. There's attorneys listening to this like, holy crap, I got one of those, because we've got several thousand CPEs throughout the country now. And my goal is to reach as many as I can. And I really want to include more attorneys in this community and in this conversation, because I really believe the quicker we can join forces and actually approach this a consumer focused service, the better the situation will get for that wave of baby boomers coming into the end of life phase. There's tons of opportunity there, opportunity to serve at a higher level than you ever have, an opportunity to monetize that at a higher level than you ever have. Most people who are early into this community, if they've been trying this for a while, they'll come in and their tails between their legs. They're apprehensive to even visit attorney or call attorney because they went in with a selfish one-sided offer, got the door slammed in their face, and for good reason. They were just going in asking a stranger for something to benefit them without offering a benefit. And something that I'd like to hear from you, like, how often does that happen to you? Because you're in a major MSA. Do you get solicitation from real estate professionals, investors, brokers, and how often and how
All the time. I would say probably 4 to 5 a week.
call, a letter, a visit?
Probably all these. A lot of them, they don't get through to me. Now my team started saving them because they know that I'm like a real estate investor too. So they save them as examples. Basically, they'll set some aside. But yeah, if you count all the places, like my law firm website, social medias, all the places, 4 to 5 a week probably. Now the people that I actually work with is when I've talked to other real estate professionals, I say there's one guaranteed way into the attorney's office. And what is that?
Bring her a living trust referral.
There you go. Hire them for what they're doing, right? They're really simple people. So just look and see exactly what they're in business for and bring them that type of client.
Yeah.
And
So there's two main kind of tactics that I teach that I found that worked really well. You go through your past client database, sphere of influence, wealthy friends, country club, whatever that is. Find those 95% of Americans do not have a living trust. And the majority of those, if they're on the upper income scale, their estate will be probated. Find those people in your sphere that don't have a proper estate plan in place and say, listen, I just got through goal setting for 2022. I really, really want to serve at a higher level this year. So part of that is making sure that all the people that have trusted me in the past to be their professional, their fiduciary. One thing I never did do, and I'm retroactively doing this, is making sure that they have a proper estate plan in place, because I've started to specialize in probate, and I realized the most valuable service in probate is to make sure your family never goes through that. So could I give you an hour to sit down with my friend and my attorney, Rilus? Like, if they're a high net worth individual, they're foolish to say no to that. Then I come through Rilus's front door and I say, hey, yeah, we don't know each other yet, but we've got a fun relationship ahead of us. Let's start with this. This is one of my best friends. This is somebody I dearly trust. I've looked into your office. I like what you're doing. Could you please provide them the level of service that I expect that they got from me? What attorney isn't going to respect that?
Perfect. That's exactly what we want as a business.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to
And
bring in. So
if people are too intimidated to take action on that, a little less threatening way that I've found that works well is to actually approach the attorneys with that marketing collaboration offer. We serve families in probate. We've got a vertically integrated team of people that help with literally anything the family could be going through. We're looking for the right attorneys to partner with that we can actually feature in our marketing pieces and endorse you as a professional that meet the standard that our team demands. Would you be able to sit down for just a few minutes for a quick brainstorm and we can see where you might fit into our marketing collateral? Would you say no to that?
I'd say send it to my people. I'll consider it. I don't have time for a sit down, but I would love to do some marketing together.
Even if you didn't take the appointment, I would have your marketing director or whomever it was. I would sit down, I would deliver on what I promised you. You would be in a letter, or we would make a postcard, or we would do a collaborative podcast or blog post. I would invite you to my Facebook community where people in this situation could ask you questions directly. And over the next week or two, you would know who the hell I was, and you would know that I was playing at a different level. And so those are just two ways that I've found that are relatively easy to teach. It's not as easy to get people to take action on. And I prefer to do it in person. I think that direct mail and phone calls to attorneys, yeah, it can work sometimes, but I've found that it's far better reception if you have the courage to walk in and look someone in the eye with confidence and explain your offer and your value, and then give something. But don't ask on that trip. And I would say, on average, I would say if I challenge 100 people to go talk to 3 attorneys, on average, they'll come back with 2 solid relationships. The rejection, the fear of rejection is kind of unfounded because not many attorneys have been approached with a valuable offer. So they're kind of like, it gets them out of that default mode network, and they're like, whoa, this is a different conversation.
Yeah.
And so it's usually a really warm reception that ends up in an hour or two long conversation. And I love getting those calls when people call back. They're like, you're not going to believe what happened. Like, I was at his office all afternoon. Like, we had to order in lunch because he just kept asking me questions, and people were just lit up. And I'm like, see, that's what providing value up front can earn you.
That's great. Another twist to that, I look for their paralegals. I agree. Walking into the office is so powerful. And if you have like a plate of cookies or just some sugar or just something nice, just so they're happy to see you, right? Hey, who's this? We
Yeah.
like this person.
I coached a girl. She was a licensed ISA. She wasn't even a listing agent, but out of Richmond, Virginia, they were one of the top teams there. And there was a little Italian bakery down the road, and we were brainstorming, and I was like, "Go get Christmas cookies and do your attorney's visits. 10 for 10." Like, she went and bought 10 things of cookies, visited 10 attorneys' office, and she's gotten deals from all 10 of them. And all she did, she focused on the staff, not on the attorney. And she just loved on them, gave them cookies. She would drop by each season. So she would go at Christmas, she would go at Easter, she would go, Valentine's Day. She would just drop in and renew that and just let them know that she was operating at a different level. She was differentiating herself and providing value to the staff, which ultimately breaks down the gatekeeper. And they're like, oh, Rilus is going to love you. Let me just put you on his calendar.
Exactly, exactly. So the attorneys get too much attention, but their staff doesn't get enough. Compliment the paralegal. We know you're doing all the work anyways. You're the one we really want to see. And let them know, here's how we help paralegals. So what I've told my other friends, like in the community here, they'll mention my name to other attorneys. I warn them, like, be careful, for better, for worse. They may not be my fan, but just let them know ways that they've helped my clients and reasons that my paralegals like them. They'll meet people at properties. They'll deal with personal properties, organize estate sales, all that stuff that makes me look good, and it doesn't take my time, and I'm not paying for someone on my team to do it. I've been asking my attorney friends, like what they do in these situations, when there is real estate, and a lot of times maybe they have a relationship or they don't. They just leave it up to their clients. Now, whenever I get a lead from my law firm, when we get someone that calls us, I always ask, and so does my paralegal, they ask if they have a realtor yet. And 80% of the time, they have already talked to a realtor, or they're already aware of at least one or two. And I say, don't hire anyone yet. Don't sign a listing agreement yet, because I always like to explore the wholesale offer before they're tied up with the listing agreement, where, especially if the property needs work, there's 5 kids, only 1 house. What I caution against realtors is they could have some realtor promise them this high price that they can get, sign a listing agreement, but if the market doesn't actually deliver that price and they sell it for a lower, you're still locked into that listing agreement.
I did a deal where I I was just shocked at what came out of me. Like, I laid 4 options on the table. She chose a lease with option to purchase, and she needed maximum price, and she needed it like right now. And I was able to check both of those boxes by using creative financing. But after that, that's when I started to look, and I'm like, how many people are in this situation each month? And I went and educated myself on probate.
I love the creative finance. I like working with real estate professionals that have more solutions. So as an
Yes.
attorney, how I look for real estate professionals, that's one. I'm looking for how many options does this person have, right? Do they only have one hammer so everything looks like a nail to them? Or do they got a whole toolbox where they can look and see what this person needs? So if they don't have it in their toolbox, they're the type of person that's going to say, this is what you need. You need this over here, not me.
The first year I started in the Virginia market, I back tested through MLS records, and 77% of estate listings had expired because
Wow.
of exactly what you said. Real estate agents, I won't even say professionals, but people with license were putting them into listing contracts, not cleaning the house out, overpricing it. The car mirror was in an iPhone 3 photo from the road. They didn't even get out of the car. There was no lockbox on it, showing by appointment only. Like, nobody was going to that house. Most people around here would list for a minimum of 6 months. The majority, I'd say the majority is 12. So you've got 12 months of the most valuable asset in the estate being tied up, incurring expenses, getting in worse condition, more deferred maintenance. And to me, as someone who signed a piece of paper and said, I am your fiduciary, I think there should be accountability for that. It's not a very popular opinion among my peers in real estate. But if you're out there hanging paper and taking listings grossly overpriced, they're not going to sell. To me, that's just weak salesmanship. You don't have the courage or the strength to actually tell this person the truth and show them the real market value. If you were a fiduciary, you would do that because that's your fiduciary duty, right? And a lot of people like really scowl at me when I share that opinion. I'm pretty deep seated in that because I've seen the impact of the family. I've had the tears on my shoulder when I came to clean up the damn mess. And that first deal was one of those. So picking the right real estate professional is very important for the attorneys, because if you get one of these, oh yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I'll drop my listing commission to 1%. We'll list it for $1.5 million. I mean, the one across the street sold for 300, but it's probably worth $1.5 million. And then just sit there and wait. 3/4 of the listings in this particular market and in many markets are expiring because they're being overpriced and undermarketed and, underserved. And there's just no sense in it. There's a better way.
I think a lot of these attorneys, I have a friend who's a fiduciary, has a fiduciary business. So courts and companies will appoint
Yeah.
him, but he had a listing in that situation. It was about to expire. And I was like, dude, there's other options. If it's not selling on the MLS, you should look at a wholesale cash offer. And I basically had to describe what a wholesale transaction was to him to let him know he has other options for things like this. So now something I've talked about some on my channel and to other attorneys is how do you balance that fiduciary duty with the wholesale offer price, right? I'm licensed in California too, although I don't really do probates over there. I do just more estate planning. Their probate's way more of a pain because one of the things that's a pain is you have to get a referee and an appraisal every time. And then the judge, you got to explain why you didn't sell for that price or what it is. Arizona, they really don't care. It's just that fiduciary duty, right? Once we get someone appointed for the estate, we're not required to get an appraisal on the house. So usually if they're selling it, the best appraisal is what someone's willing to pay. But if you don't list it on the market, I learned this from my friend Pace Morby. So now he's on a TV show and the creative finance guy. But I saw he was doing this with my clients. He made an offer to buy it, and he offered to pay $1,000 higher than any other offers. And then he had a nice 10,000 earnest deposit. So in that case, one of the siblings was represented by an attorney. He had a friend that wanted to make an offer, and one of the other kids also had a friend that was a real estate investor. So we got all their offers and we took it back, and Pace was willing to beat it. But I've seen it work all ways where, yeah, they're willing to beat it. And if so, that's our highest offer. And we had the fiduciary duty to take the highest offer. I had that other attorney yelling at me why I didn't take his friend's deal. And it's like, you just described that I'm doing a good job for my client as the fiduciary. We got the highest offer. So you're welcome. I feel like the real estate world is getting more creative and more open-minded, and people are seeing that there's not just everything is just list on the MLS.
One student and one story at a time, man. It's just how it is. Like, I challenged myself shortly after I did that first probate deal. I shocked myself. So I gave her 4 options, and I didn't plan this. I was selfishly going there to buy that house because it was in the neighborhood. I had moved from Maui to Virginia, and like I'm like, yes, got my house. I've been here 2 months. When I looked her in the eye, it all changed though. I'm like, man, this isn't about me and about this house for me. Like this is about her. She was devastated. So walked through the house, saw valuable antique furniture, felt her out, realized that she needed as much equity as possible and as fast as possible. So a cash offer at 70 cents on the dollar wasn't going to work. I threw it out there to create, I knew I was going to get the flinch. And when I did, she's like, oh no, we can't. And I'm like, all right, perfect. So now I've got a contrasting point, right? I've got an anchor to make the other 3 options look really good. And at the time, the options were just rolling out. I'm like, but what we can do, we can sell it as is where is on the MLS, no contingencies. I would expect we could have it ratified within a week and probably close within 30 days. Option 3 is we sell it conventionally. But first, we go through, we empty the personal property, we liquidate that, we use that money to do a cosmetic rehab, we stage the home, we get professional photography, and we go back out to market at a retail price. So we maximize your equity. It's probably going to take 45 to 60 days. And you could see it was sounding better, but she still had apprehension. And I was like, but there's one more thing, and this is complicated. Feel free to ask as many questions you need. I'll try to simplify it. I have a list of aspiring buyers who can't qualify for financing right now. They've already been pre-vetted. We've done criminal, credit, background, sex offender checks. They've filled out a full mortgage application. We know exactly why they were denied. We've got them in credit coaching. What I would like to do is list the house at absolute top retail price, no contingencies. The inspections are welcome, but it's still an as-is, whereas sale, clear contingencies on the front. And we're going to do this with a lease with option to purchase. We'll take an $8,000 deposit, $1,100 first month, $1,100 last month, and we'll close it within days. And she was like, oh my God, let's do that. That's amazing. And I'm like, really? She didn't even have questions. Like the lease option done properly is not the simplest paperwork. At the time, Dodd-Frank was still a very touchy area with creative financing. It's since loosened up. But I was just shocked that the most complex tactic is the one that she was most attracted to. And because I was focused on her needs, she wanted the most money she could get as fast as she could get it. And that was the one that really, met all of her needs. I've tried to teach this after that. I went home, I had a glass of Cabernet, and I'm like, what did I just do? And how can I replicate that? And I looked at all these junk leads in my database that I'd been meeting with for 2 or 3 months and coming up short, making offers. They would flinch. I would try to, refer it to a realtor or list it myself. Always broke rapport. And what came out of that, really, that deal changed the whole course of my career. And it taught me I was a teacher eventually, but I quit being Chad the investor and I quit being Chad the realtor that day. And I just started to be Chad. And I would always, on almost every single appointment I've been on since, I've offered no less than 2 options. Like I'll list it or I'll buy it. But usually it's more options than that. Like we can help you transition this to a rental property. We can help get one of your family members qualified so they actually can purchase the home from the estate. We can help you turn it into a short-term rental. We can actually partner with you. We'll do a land trust. We'll joint venture. We'll establish a cost basis for the asset. We'll bring the construction, the crews, the capital. We'll take all the risks. At the end, we split it 50-50 net, and I get paid a commission on top of that for being a listing agent. But we lay all these options out that they've never heard of.
I was saying, if you were referred by an attorney, do you think they would like that attorney? Right? So that's the type of professionals that I look for, because look at those options, right? Look at what you gave that. Like, how many other people are going to offer that many options?
Very few. And if I had it my way, everyone who has a CPE designation would do that. But unfortunately, even a lot of people are intimidated. It takes critical thinking skills, and you've got to have a good relationship with a real estate attorney that can watch your assets for you and make sure you've got the proper contracts. Don't be intimidated, guys. If you're inspired by this idea, by this conversation, please go toward that. Like we teach in session 2 of Probate Mastery, I teach like the full spectrum of everything you can do to help a family, ranging from things that are just like getting a social worker to help a surviving family member find suitable housing in a short time frame. It's something you're going to have to do eventually if you haven't already. It's the failure to launch kid who's 50 years old, plays Xbox and smokes every day, and he's not going anywhere unless you better his situation. So there's things like that. Like we teach you how to do that just pure service that you're unlikely to monetize, all the way to making 7-figure paydays by partnering with the estate on a piece of ag land, subdividing, do the curb and gutter, and then sell it off to a builder, Innovation Homes, or whoever it might be, or individual lots. And I've coached people who have taken a $150,000, $200,000 hayfield and turned it into a $2 million disposition. The family made $1 million extra bucks just because he followed that. He was a student, and then I ran into him at a campfire in Tennessee on a dirt bike. We were riding dirt bikes, and we started talking. I'm like, dude, you can do this. He's like, I'm going to go do that. So he would do about 2 deals a year with families who inherited farmland. He'd make a couple million. They would make a couple million extra. So there's so much you can do to help these people if you're willing to think outside of the box and lead with a servant's heart, looking at yourself as a fiduciary, put their best interests first, provide options for them, and then you don't have to sell a damn thing. You give them a choice. They choose how they're going to work with you. They choose how you're going to monetize the conversation. But what's important in my goal, what the challenge that I issued to myself was, how do I monetize every real estate conversation? I've got a mind map of what that looks like, the logic of it, where you're saying, is there real estate? Yes or no? And depending on how that branches, is there a motivation to sell? Yes or no?
So as an attorney, I'm interested to see if probably similar what I go through. I talk to prospects, but I've started using real estate as a different lead source because a lot of times that's the main source of the problem. And that's going to be the answer to what we do in the probate. It's going to be determined by what they want to do with the real estate.
So while we're here, this is a graphic. So what we teach in the course, one of the things, so you've got your internal team, whoever does prospecting, appointments, listing, transactions, but then it blows up. This is your vendor team, and a probate attorney is one of those people, an estate planning attorney, a probate attorney. This is what a typical team would look like for a certified probate expert. This is a truly vertically integrated solution. They can provide literally dozens and dozens of options to these families. So it's pretty hard to compete with that.
Yeah, yeah.
This is how my brain works. On the left here, you've got all the different lead types that I've used this for. The approach really doesn't change much. The conversation changes, but the line of logic doesn't. It starts with, is there real estate? Yes or no. If not, then who is a referral partner that can help a tenant? Maybe it's somebody who owns a self-storage facility, a cleaning company, a pressure washing company, a handyman, somebody. Everybody can use help from somebody, right?
Yeah.
And this is the idea of monetize every conversation. But more likely, yes, there's real estate. Is there motivation to sell? If no, most people will be like, okay, junk lead. But if there's no motivation to sell, is there debt? If yes, payments are current, yes, get it to your sphere of influence. Maybe they can refinance into a lower rate. Maybe they can invest in Bitcoin by accessing the home equity through a home equity line of credit. They need a living trust, don't they, Rilus? They need to sit down with a registered investment advisor and understand infinite banking and how they don't need to worry about loan approval. They can buy a whole life policy and loan themselves money and actually pay down debt twice as fast. They need an insurance broker. We all do. So even when most real estate professionals think they've hit a dead end, there's still one more question to ask, and one more, like, if you can continue to provide value. There's debt, payments aren't current, and we've got no equity. Then we've got the opportunity for a loan mod, a referral to a bankruptcy attorney, or you can buy the property from them and lease it back to them if you're a really risk tolerant investor. But that's the no side. The more common part of the conversation is the real estate. Yes. And then we look at the debt, real estate with no debt. This gives us some pretty simple strategies, right? If they want to be out of this in less than 30 days, it's a cash offer, wholesale price. If they've got 60 to 90, we can go conventional and get them more equity. If they're unrealistic on price, or they just have to get to a certain net figure, then we can do this using creative financing. We can maximize that price by not paying fees, not negotiating with the buyers, not doing repairs. A mortgage, an interest-free mortgage, owner finance, contract for deed, lease with option to purchase. If there's debt, are the payments current? Yes or no? We basically end up at the same thing. I'll spare you guys going through every branch, but what we're looking at is, this is the logical framework that my brain is using when I'm having an emotional conversation. So I'm not saying are your payments current? Do you want to move? Like and don't do that. That's why I don't offer scripts with this. It's the art of having an emotional conversation following this logical track. But you can see as I extrapolate this out, there's no situation where I get to a dead end and go, oh, I don't know what to do, or I can't help you. And that's what I challenge everybody that takes my courses and follows my approach. I want to teach everybody how to do this because it provides so much more value to the families. Everybody makes more money. The family makes more money. The attorney makes more money. The real estate agent or broker makes more money. And it's just more fun when you're using creative solutions. Even for your audience listening to this, if you have a legal practice and you're looking to connect with these type of people, we've had over 4,000 people certified through this course that have learned from that teaching. And it's like it is a much different experience working with a real estate professional that thinks outside of the box. They can be a transaction engineer on their feet, and they can offer dozens of different solutions to everyone they talk to.
My friend Pace, he's helped people with creative solutions. So there's a lot of people that love me because of Pace.
I haven't met Pace yet. You should probably introduce us. I've had several people be like, do you know that guy? You guys really need to know each other. And Chris Prefontaine is a friend of mine. He's also incredibly good as a teacher in the creative financing space. What those guys are teaching and what we just looked at, we're talking about a 90% growth in your transaction volume because no lead is a junk lead. If you get a conversation, you can actually help that person and monetize that conversation. So we need to have a panel discussion with me, Pace, and Chris Prefontaine. Joe McCall would be a good addition to that too.
Yeah, that'd be great. There's different opportunities. Like one I'm thinking of is I had some clients, they didn't think they could requalify. They didn't have any credit and they had to sell the house that they were in because there's multiple beneficiaries. So he was able to find them like a seller finance deal to buy. That's like one that comes to mind. They were like hugging me, like, oh my gosh, like we never thought we would be able to buy a house again. And
Yeah, like depending on the situation, like the options there is like, well, how would you guys like to buy a home and just pay a private mortgage and not have to pay for appraisals and PMI and all that? Well, that sounds great, but we can't qualify. Well, that's up to me. I'm the lender. So I can buy this house from the estate and lease it back to you and I pocket all that. Or I can buy this house and then sell it to you. Or if you really don't like this house, I'll take one of the other houses I've already bought, or I'll go find a house and I'll buy it. I'll become your lender. And over time, you can pay me back or you can refinance me out.
I'm trying to spread the word about seller financing to my client base. So I have a pretty big list of legal clients who we've done estate planning for. And the scenario that I've now seen a few times is they have a couple rental properties that are low bases, so they depreciated it to zero. They're sick of being landlords, but they don't want to take the tax hit if they sell. They don't want to pay all the capital gains, and then they don't know where to reinvest the money. I think a seller finance is a perfect situation.
It is, and you're an attorney. You probably have thought of this. And if they're held in an LLC, you can actually acquire the LLC and not transfer title and trigger a taxable event. So the LLC holds title to the real estate. It's a business transaction, not a real estate transaction, and they can take it as a capital gain without the depreciation recapture.
Yeah, that's good to know. There's ways around that depreciation recapture because that can be tough for people. They have to recapture depreciation.
Yeah, it's a deferral game. It's coming back at you in most asset classes.
I had an estate planning client come see me that I'm actually going to pitch seller financing to. After thinking about a situation for a while, but he has 9 properties in Arizona. He was wanting to give to his grandkids, and he wanted to have his grandkids run them. And I'm like, that's a nightmare. That is a nightmare having multiple.
Usually doesn't end well.
And it's like, this is great what you've built. And he also had, infinite banking and he was trying to force that upon his grandkids. And it's like, yeah, this is a great scenario, but I think this guy might have been an engineer by trade too. Sometimes they're kind of over analytical.
Right.
And his poor wife wasn't on board with that, right? She was trying to simplify it too. Because I was showing him like best case scenario, if it works how you want, you're talking about 4 different trustees that are going to manage this, and manage business. Their fees are not going to be small, even if it goes perfectly. I was thinking about it more, and I'm going to call him back and be like, if the result you're trying to achieve is they not be able to sell the properties and not have a lump sum of cash, and you want to guarantee an income stream, I think a seller finance situation could be a perfect option. Help, sell his portfolio and just hold the notes in his trust. Then his grandkids inherit those notes. that entitle them to payments.
That sounds like a good strategy.
But yeah, I want more people to become aware of this because a lot of times they only know what the realtor says and the banker says, and they say you can't do that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Therefore, it must be illegal. I find it very easy to explain to the families because what you're saying is so different. They trust you. Like they're like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. I think I trust him. And they typically don't have that many questions. I make it a point to always structure creative financing deals in the presence of an attorney. So if they have questions, I'm not put in a position where I could be perceived as practicing law. I just go sit at a conference table. My real estate attorney's happy to sit there. Usually he doesn't have to answer many questions. But I find the most difficult thing about creative financing is cooperating with other broker agents or brokers. And they're just determined that it must be illegal because their broker didn't teach them that, or it wasn't in the real estate school handbook. I should have learned everything in those 60 hours of education. And it's frustrating to me. I had to interview probably 12 brokers before one would allow me to hang my license. And my license has been hanging there for 12 years without a single thing. Like I run my business with integrity. It's important to me. But there's so few people who will venture into the creative financing space because someone has convinced them, that little voice in their head, their broker, their whoever it might be. They've been convinced that it's a shyster's game and it's illegal, and it's just a matter of time until you go to prison for doing an owner financing deal. It couldn't be further from the truth. Like the practitioners that I know, people like Pace Morby and Jim Kraut-Kramer out of Charlotte, and Chris Prefontaine and Joe McCall. These are all guys that are teaching this different strategies within that space, but they've been doing it for decades and they've never been pinched. Like they do it with integrity. They put service first, and they make absurd amounts of money, but they earned that. Like they educated themselves and provided real value. So if you guys find this conversation interesting, I challenge you and encourage you to learn at least one creative financing tactic each quarter this year. So if you don't know how to do a wrap or a subject to or a land contract for deed, lease with option to purchase, find a mentor, find a book, but find a way to build that into your skill set as a real estate professional. It will just make it so much easier to get in inroads with attorneys like Rilus that are like, oh, okay, well, I got my two guys, but neither one of them do this. So I'm going to make room on the team for you. Like if somebody comes in that can get the difficult deals done, and we haven't even gotten into title issues and like reverse mortgages and HECM loans and how to navigate that. Like, I don't know what your experience has been, but the majority of families that I see that have a reverse mortgage on the asset, typically they're still pissed off that mom and dad did that because they advised them not to. And they just put their head in the sand and let it roll to foreclosure, even if there's equity. And in that example, where if you had that guy on your dream team, he is a seasoned investor. He's risk tolerant. He knows that I've got a 90-day window. I'll come in, buy cash for it, subject to transaction, title transfers with the first position lien in place. And then I'll refinance it through my community bank as soon as I get a tenant in there and I can show them that I have a 1.25 debt coverage ratio. Boom. You took a deal that was going to go to foreclosure. The family was going to give up the equity, and you turned it into a deal for that investor. And that investor, he helped your firm be able to close that probate deal out because the assets are disposed of. When you think outside of the box, attorneys and real estate professionals, it's a hell of a lot more fun too. Like transaction engineering is like my favorite game. It's like, ooh, can you stump me? So I've had a really good time learning that. And in the probate space, creative financing is more complicated because you not only have to understand the real estate law, you better understand probate law too, and what that timeline looks like in your state and what you're getting into. Like as Riley said, one of the tactics I've used is pump up a big fat earnest money deposit so you stand out from all the other offers. Well, if you're in California and you throw down 10 grand in earnest money and the closing is subject to court approval, you might be out 10 grand for 10 months. So make sure you understand the market you're working in. In Mastery, we teach you kind of the macro and then show you how to get the micro knowledge, like that local market knowledge through the probate clerk, the probate code, probate attorneys. It's a little more complex in the probate space, but certainly doable. I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people. I wish I could say thousands, but hundreds have actually taken action on that. So they're out there, like the right practitioners. But Well, Rilus, I know you had to jump and we're just past the top of the hour. Like I said before we started, I think we could do a series that would go on for days. Excited to have you as part of the community, man. I really appreciate the value that you provide. Yeah, I've seen you share in there, you contribute, and that's what it's all about. Anything you want to say as we close out? Tell them how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. Happy to be a part of this community. I'd love to come back. I'd love to give my take as a probate attorney and to help this community because I feel like this, the real estate professionals have really helped my law firm. So this is great for the attorneys in your network. Best place to find my contact info, you can go to rilusdana.com. So my first and last name. That has links to all my different websites. So where I practice law in Arizona, attorneys, you can share, if you have attorneys in your networks, you can share with them my legal site where I have continuing education classes on there, including how they can work with real estate professionals.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time. Guys, I think this is probably the first of a series or many calls, possibly even ongoing calls. If you've gotten value from this and you enjoyed it, please be sure and drop in the comments anything that you might like to hear us touch on next. Is there anything you were waiting for us to get to that we didn't, that just a burning question, like something you're interested in, something you've been intimidated about? Drop some questions in the comments so that way we know how we can bring value to you guys on future calls. So thanks so much for being part of this community and tuning in today. And Rilus, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being here.
And thanks, Jeff.
Have a great day, guys.